we went into the studio last year and we finished a lot of the tracks. I mean, Peter Patasi and my father started the production in 2008.
For over a decade, Robin Gibb's death left fans with unanswered questions and swirling rumors about his private life. How does a man whose voice defined generations also harbor secrets that took years for his own children to confirm? The tension between public legend and private truth is striking, revealing a portrait far richer and more complicated than most ever imagined. What if the stories you thought were just gossip actually hold the key to understanding the struggles behind the harmonies? Today, we begin to piece together the life of a gifted artist whose battles offstage shaped the man behind the music everyone loved. Hidden battles behind fame. Behind the polished performances and haunting harmonies of Robin Gibb's career was a life few people truly understood. The world saw global fame, chart-topping hits, and stadium crowds. What they didn't see were the private battles happening behind closed doors. For years, his family kept those struggles quiet, protecting a man who valued privacy as much as artistry. Now, that silence is beginning to lift, revealing a more complicated truth about the man behind the music. For decades, rumors followed him, whispers of emotional instability, strained relationships, and secret affairs. Most were brushed off as tabloid exaggeration. The Bee Gees' success was so overwhelming that it drowned out nearly everything else. But success has a cost, and in Robin's case, that cost was deeply personal. With time, and with his children now speaking more openly, those long-dismissed stories are gaining context. The legend remains intact, but the picture is no longer one-dimensional. His children describe the years of silence as loyalty, not secrecy for secrecy's sake. They say they were protecting a deeply private man who poured his feelings into songs rather than conversations. Still, silence can become heavy. As they begin to share their memories, a clearer portrait emerges, one of emotional struggles, family tensions, and the constant pressure of living in the public eye. The man who sounded so confident on stage was often searching for balance off it. Protecting Robin's legacy meant enduring speculation without response. His children chose not to correct every headline or rumor. Now, they say it's time to explain rather than defend. Their stories don't aim to scandalize, but to humanize. They shed light on complicated relationships, health concerns, and inner battles that shaped his later years. In doing so, they deepen our understanding of a performer who carried more than just melodies. These struggles didn't suddenly appear at the height of fame. According to those closest to him, they existed long before the Bee Gees became a global phenomenon. Even during peak success, there were signs, moments when his public composure hinted at something heavier underneath. Performance became both refuge and escape. Creativity was where he felt most in control, even when other parts of life felt uncertain. While his music often explored love and longing, it also reflected his private conflicts. The polish of the recordings masked emotional chaos that rarely made headlines in a meaningful way. The contrast between public triumph and private difficulty fueled years of speculation. Now, those whispers are being reframed as glimpses of a more complicated reality. Fame amplified everything, both the applause and the pressure. Living in the spotlight made it nearly impossible to separate public image from private identity. The demands of touring, recording, and constant scrutiny magnified existing challenges. His children say that speaking now feels like removing the final barrier between myth and man. Their accounts don't diminish his accomplishments. Instead, they add depth, showing resilience in the face of personal turmoil. As more details surface, the story becomes less about scandal and more about understanding. Robin Gibb's struggles did not weaken his artistry. They shaped it. The voice that carried so much emotion was born from a life that was anything but simple. With his family now sharing their truth, the silence that once defined his private world is giving way to a fuller, more human legacy. To comprehend the private struggles that shadowed Robin Gibb's life, we must first look back to the roots from which his remarkable story grew, his early years with family and music. The roots of a remarkable voice. Robin Hugh Gibb entered the world on December 22nd, 1949, on the Isle of Man, arriving just 35 minutes before his twin brother, Maurice. From the beginning, his life was inseparable from his brothers Maurice and Barry. Their parents, Hugh and Barbara, moved the family from the Isle of Man to Manchester, and later to Redcliffe, Australia, searching for new opportunities. The constant relocation created a childhood filled with both instability and adventure, shaping the boys' restless energy. As children, the brothers were mischievous and loud, often worrying adults with their antics. But that same energy found direction in music. Inspired by acts like the Everly Brothers and Paul Anka, they began experimenting with harmony at a young age. Even then, their voices blended naturally, hinting at something special. Music quickly became more than a hobby. It became focus, escape, and identity. By the mid-1950s, the brothers formed their first group, the Rattlesnakes. They were barely 6 years old, performing with raw enthusiasm rather than polish. Still, audiences noticed their chemistry. Those early performances laid the groundwork for a future none of them could yet fully understand. What started as childhood fun was quietly becoming a calling. The family's move to Australia in 1958 marked a turning point. It gave the boys a fresh start and a growing platform. Television appearances followed, introducing audiences to their evolving sound. Robin's tremolo voice, unusually mature for his age, began to stand out. By the early 1960s, they were signed to Festival Records, stepping officially into the professional world. The achievement of success led to new demands, which created pressure to handle. The music industry introduced additional requirements, which created instability that resulted from their multiple relocations. The friendship bonds which existed between them started to dissolve when they entered their duties. The organization of their creative process produced their success, but it also created internal conflicts. The emotional expenses which people face because of their desires for success already started to become apparent at this point in time. Musical parents provided him with a musical environment that created two opposing forces. Robin and his brothers established a strong relationship which developed through their shared aspirations. The family members shared a bond, which formed their connection. But their competitive nature created hidden conflicts. The music, created by their shared childhood experiences, formed their adult relationships through three different emotional patterns. For Robin, music became the language he used to process everything: excitement, fear, uncertainty. Performing created a stable point for him to hold on to during his most difficult times. As his fame ascended, he faced increasing pressure to meet expectations. Young stars who appeared cheerful to the public actually showed early signs of experiencing anxiety and mental weakness. The dual pathways of strength and suffering originated from two separate sources which emerged together. Family remained the core of Robin's world. The Gibbs family maintained a close bond through their shared love of music, which faced challenges during testing times. Each performance, each move, each opportunity that appeared throughout his life played a role in building his personal identity. His early life shows how brilliance can rise from complicated beginnings. The young boy who used his strong singing abilities to create trouble started to develop into the man and musician he would become through external influences. With a foundation built on family and music, Robin Gibb's rise to fame began, but so did the personal struggles that fame could neither heal nor hide. Bee Gees, Stardom, and Private Struggles. By the late 1960s, the Bee Gees were rising fast toward international fame. Their harmonies were unmistakable, and Robin's trembling, emotional lead vocals became a signature part of their sound. But as success grew, so did the pressure. The applause was loud, the tours were constant, and the spotlight never dimmed. Behind the scenes, the gap between public triumph and private strain was widening. In 1968, at just 18, Robin married Molly Hullis, his manager's secretary. Their relationship formed during an emotional period following a tragic rail crash in Hither Green, an event that deeply affected them both. For a while, their life seemed stable. Robin had love, young children, and a booming career. From the outside, it looked like everything was falling into place. But fame brought distance. By the early 1970s, Robin was based mostly in the United States, while Molly remained in the United Kingdom with their children, Spencer and Melissa. The physical separation slowly turned into emotional strain. At the same time, Robin's mental health began to suffer under non-stop touring and recording. Sleep deprivation and stress intensified mood swings and anxiety. Friends later described unpredictable shifts in his behavior. Bursts of restless energy were followed by deep exhaustion. He became increasingly suspicious and withdrawn, at times convinced that people close to him were working against him. The pressure of celebrity life magnified every insecurity. What had once been manageable stress began to erode both trust and stability in his marriage. By 1980, the marriage ended in a bitter and highly public divorce. The split unfolded under media scrutiny, adding humiliation to heartbreak. Robin's decision to speak publicly about personal matters, despite legal agreements, led to a brief jail sentence. It was one of the lowest points of his life, exposing how deeply entangled his private struggles had become with his public identity. Still, Robin sought a fresh start. In 1985, he married artist Dwina Murphy Gibb. Her spiritual outlook and creativity offered him renewed grounding. Publicly, the marriage appeared to signal stability and healing. Yet, like many chapters in his life, it carried complexities that remained largely out of view. At the same time, tensions simmered within the Bee Gees themselves. Creative rivalries, particularly over vocal leads and artistic direction, caused friction, especially between Robin and Barry. The group's flawless harmonies masked ongoing struggles for recognition and control. These internal conflicts added to Robin's emotional weight, blurring the line between professional pressure and personal pain. Through it all, his devotion to music never faded. Even during his darkest moments, performance remained his anchor. The early years of fame revealed a man both gifted and fragile, celebrated worldwide, yet battling private turmoil. His rise to stardom cannot be separated from the struggles that shaped him, setting the tone for the complicated years still to come. As the public recognized Robin Gibb's voice on the stage, the private storms that accompanied his rise would soon break into view, reshaping his life and family forever. Marital turmoil and public fallout. The early promise of Robin Gibb's first marriage slowly unraveled under pressures few relationships could survive. He and Molly Hullis had bonded deeply after living through the tragic Hither Green rail crash, an experience that strengthened their connection. For a time, their marriage offered Robin stability as his fame grew. But as his career accelerated, so did the strain. He moved to the United States to focus on music, while Molly remained in the United Kingdom raising their children, Spencer and Melissa. The distance between them became more than geographical. Relentless touring, recording sessions, and constant public scrutiny took a serious toll on Robin's emotional health. Sleep deprivation and exhaustion fed rising anxiety and unpredictable mood swings. Those close to him noticed a shift. Bursts of intense energy were often followed by deep crashes. At times, paranoia crept in, along with fears that even trusted people were working against him. The weight of being a lead voice in the Bee Gees, combined with personal vulnerability, created a storm he struggled to control. As the years passed, the strain on his marriage became impossible to ignore. Long separations and emotional instability widened the gap between husband and wife. By 1980, Molly filed for divorce, bringing their troubled relationship to a public and painful end. What followed was not quiet resolution, but conflict that spilled into headlines. During the legal battle, Robin spoke openly about private matters despite court restrictions. His defiance led to serious consequences. In 1983, he served a 14-day jail sentence, an astonishing fall for a global star. The brief imprisonment shocked fans and punctured the image of untouchable celebrity. Suddenly, the man known for haunting ballads was front-page news for deeply personal turmoil. The family experienced emotional turmoil, which the media coverage did not show. The breakdown of his marriage took away everything Robin considered unbreakable, and it changed the way he raised his children. The artist maintained his creative output, but his psychological scars from the past remained active. The time period created deep imprints which would shape his future relationships and his ability to trust others. The experience of fame brought two opposing effects. The public observed Robin's successful sold-out performances, but he actually struggled with three major challenges. The public showed him great love, but he experienced deep emotional struggles in his private life. His personal struggles demonstrated how quickly celebrities experience amplified suffering because of their public image. The jail sentence, in particular, forced a reckoning. The situation destroyed an artificial facade which showed his true vulnerable state. His strength to survive showed his power to endure. He maintained his dedication to music even when he faced his most difficult moments. The artist found stability through songwriting and performance, which served as his primary sources of support during uncertain times. The act of creating art turned into a way for him to stay alive. This chapter of his life brought about both his downfall and his transitional moment. His marriage ended, and the subsequent legal issues revealed how much fame demands from him, which created opportunities for him to start anew. Robin emerged bruised but not defeated, determined to rebuild both personally and professionally. The chaotic events of these years formed a major component of his life story, which demonstrated how a man behind the legend learned to deal with his challenges. As one chapter closed amid hardship and heartache, Robin stepped into a new phase of his life, one marked by unexpected openness and truths that would only emerge long after his time. The second marriage and hidden truths. In 1985, Robin Gibb married artist Dwina Murphy, beginning what appeared to be a calmer, more grounded chapter of his life. They split their time between Miami, the Isle of Man, and their Oxfordshire home, the Prebendal. Publicly, the marriage looked like a fresh start, two creative spirits building a peaceful life together. After years of turmoil, it seemed Robin had finally found balance. But the reality was more layered than it appeared. After Robin's death, Dwina revealed that their marriage had never been conventional. It was an open relationship built on honesty and mutual understanding, rather than secrecy or betrayal. For many fans, this was surprising. Yet Dwina described it as a conscious, agreed choice, one rooted in trust, not scandal. The most talked about chapter of this arrangement involved Claire Yang, a housekeeper in the Gibb household. Around 2001, Robin began a long-term relationship with her. In 2008, their daughter Snow was born. From the outside, the situation seemed destined for public drama. But those closest to the family later described a far more nuanced reality. Dwina publicly acknowledged Claire and Snow, making it clear that both were cared for and accepted. There was no explosive fallout, no tabloid war. Instead, there was an effort to handle a complicated situation with maturity. The family operated within its own understanding of love and loyalty, even if it challenged traditional expectations. Still, that didn't mean it was easy. Managing two households and living a dual emotional life weighed heavily on Robin. The very harmony he sought in music often eluded him in private. Balancing openness with discretion, affection with guilt, created inner conflict. His personal choices added further complexity to a life already shaped by fame and scrutiny. At the same time, tensions simmered professionally within the Bee Gees. Old disagreements over creative control and lead vocals, particularly with his brother Barry, never fully disappeared. Disputes dating back decades resurfaced, and by the early 2000s, the distance between the brothers had grown. Publicly, the harmonies remained flawless. Privately, unresolved wounds lingered. The emotional gap between Robin and Barry mirrored the contradictions in Robin's marriage. Closeness mixed with separation, unity strained by rivalry. Grief, competition, and pride complicated their bond. These fractures became a quiet backdrop to Robin's later years, adding to the emotional weight he carried. Through it all, music remained his anchor. Even when personal storms brewed, his creative drive never faded. The story of his second marriage challenges simple ideas about fidelity and family. It reveals a man trying to live authentically, even when that authenticity defied convention. In the end, Robin Gibb's life was defined not just by soaring melodies, but by the complex, deeply human choices behind them. With the private complexities of his relationships laid bare, the unfolding story now moves to the tensions within the Bee Gees themselves and how personal grief added to an already fragile family dynamic. Family conflicts and professional rivalries. The Bee Gees built a legacy on flawless harmonies, but behind that polished sound were deep tensions, especially between Robin and his brother Barry. Their partnership changed pop music, yet rivalry simmered beneath the surface. As early as the success of Massachusetts in 1967, Robin began feeling overshadowed by Barry's growing dominance as lead vocalist and principal songwriter. By 1969, the strain became too much. Robin temporarily left the group, shocking fans worldwide. Though he rejoined the following year, the departure exposed fractures that never fully healed. Love and loyalty bound the brothers together, but competition complicated everything. The stage showcased unity. Behind it, identity struggles brewed. Robin wanted recognition not just as a contributor, but as a driving creative force. Barry's increasing control over songwriting and production sometimes left him feeling sidelined. Those close to the band sensed the imbalance, even if it was rarely discussed publicly. The brothers managed to work together, but unresolved feelings lingered beneath their collaborations. The fragile balance between them suffered a devastating blow in 2003 with the death of Maurice Gibb, Robin's twin, and often the emotional bridge between the brothers. Maurice had a calming presence, helping ease creative and personal conflicts. Without him, the family dynamic shifted dramatically. Grief magnified old wounds. The situation escalated when Barry spoke out against plans to honor Maurice through a tribute album and other related activities. His rising anger resulted from his belief that decisions were being made without his knowledge. The conflict originated from music because it contained deep emotional components that included both pride and their ongoing rival relationship. Robin had to decide between paying tribute to his twin brother and keeping the peace with Barry. Time passing between Robin and Barry resulted in their relationship growing more distant. The 2000s arrived with Robin and Barry only able to exchange minimal words. People stopped talking to each other because their relationship had been destroyed by unhealed emotional wounds. Robin tried to hide his cancer diagnosis from Barry, which created a deep emotional distance between them. Barry discovered his brother's sickness when it had progressed to its severe stage, which completely astonished him and caused him deep sadness. The silence spoke volumes. Barry experienced the realization that their relationship had created an emotional distance, which had gone beyond his expectations. For Robin, it reflected emotional wounds that had never fully healed. Their story demonstrates the difficult connection between fame and family relationships and competitive behavior. Their personal lives and music development were influenced by their romantic feelings and their competitive relationship. Robin continued to produce new work despite their ongoing disagreements. Music served as his safe space, where he could express his emotions without restrictions, while his family relationships faced difficulties. His voice revealed his abilities, which included his artistic skills and his personal experiences of sorrow and pride and yearning and determination. The personal struggles of the Bee Gees musicians form the backbone of their permanent musical heritage. The brothers who created the legendary harmonies that became popular with their generation battled personal challenges, which included their quest for career success and their experience of professional loss and their search for self-identity. These deep family tensions set the stage for the final courageous chapter of Robin Gibb's life, a battle with illness that would reveal his enduring spirit and determination. The final illness and unseen strength. By 2011, Robin Gibb was confronting a devastating diagnosis: colon cancer that had spread to his liver. The outlook was grave, and the treatments ahead were aggressive. Yet publicly, he refused to surrender to despair. In interviews, he spoke with quiet determination, insisting he would recover. Even as his once powerful voice grew thinner and his frame more fragile, he projected belief in survival. Those closest to him later said that optimism wasn't denial, it was his shield. Hope for Robin was a form of resistance. The medical battle was brutal. Multiple surgeries and exhausting rounds of chemotherapy stripped away his physical strength. There were long hospital stays, constant monitoring, and days when pain overshadowed everything else. Still, he continued to create. Music had always been his refuge, and he clung to it fiercely. Even from hospital rooms, sometimes connected to IV drips, he discussed arrangements, melodies, and lyrics. Creativity was not a distraction from illness. It was his way of pushing back against it. That determination centered on one final major work, the Titanic Requiem. Created alongside his son, R.J., the symphonic piece marked the centenary of the Titanic's sinking. But for Robin, the project became deeply personal. The story of endurance in the face of disaster mirrored his own struggle. The music carried themes of loss, survival, and human fragility. It was more than a commission. It was legacy. Through it, he passed both artistic vision and emotional strength to his son. As 2012 began, however, his health deteriorated rapidly. In April, complications including pneumonia led to a critical crisis that left him in a coma. Doctors quietly prepared the family for the possibility that he would not recover. Dwina, R.J., and other loved ones gathered at his bedside, bracing for farewell. The atmosphere was heavy with grief and uncertainty. Then came a moment no one expected. As music from the Titanic Requiem played softly in his hospital room, Robin stirred. His fingers twitched. His eyelids fluttered open. A faint smile formed. It was brief but unmistakable. Medical staff described it as extraordinary. His family experienced it as nothing short of miraculous. In that fragile return, music once again seemed to reach him where nothing else could. During that short window of awareness, he spoke softly and even hummed fragments of melody. Despite his weakness, he expressed a desire to perform again. The stage still lived within him. That moment revealed something profound. Music was not simply his profession, it was his identity. Even as his body failed, the creative spirit that defined him remained intact. The reprieve was temporary. His kidneys began to shut down, followed by his liver. On May 20th, 2012, Robin passed away peacefully at the age of 62. He was surrounded by Dwina, R.J., and those who loved him most. According to his family, he left quietly, smiling, unafraid. His final months exposed a resilience many had never fully seen. Through the Titanic Requiem and the enduring legacy of the Bee Gees, his voice continues to resonate. Illness may have weakened his body, but it never silenced the music within him. With his illness and strength laid bare, the next chapter reveals how Robin's children have stepped forward to share the full truth of their father's life and legacy. Children's Revelations and Legacy. After Robin Gibb's death in 2012, his family chose silence. It wasn't avoidance, it was protection. For decades, they had guarded his private world from public scrutiny, and in the immediate aftermath of his passing, they saw no reason to change that. Grief was personal. Reflection was quiet. The world already knew the star. They were mourning the husband, father, and brother. But as the years passed, that silence gradually softened. Questions lingered, rumors persisted, and fragments of Robin's life remained misunderstood. His children, especially his son R.J., began speaking more openly. Not to generate headlines, but to bring clarity. They wanted people to see the full picture. Not just the celebrated voice of the Bee Gees, but the complicated, deeply human man behind it. One of the most unexpected revelations came from Dwina Murphy Gibb. She calmly confirmed that her marriage to Robin had been unconventional. The long-rumored relationship between Robin and Claire Yang, a housekeeper in their home and the mother of his daughter Snow, was not a hidden betrayal within the family. It was known and accepted. Dwina spoke without bitterness, reframing a story that tabloids had once painted as scandal. Her honesty shifted public perception. What many assumed was secrecy and deception was, in reality, a private understanding built on mutual agreement. The family did not deny complexity. They acknowledged it. Their openness suggested that love, loyalty, and partnership don't always fit traditional molds. What mattered most to them was respect and care within the family unit. When it came to Robin's estate, discretion remained central. His will, reportedly valued at around £26 million, primarily provided for Dweena and his children Spencer, Melissa, and RJ. Though Snow was not publicly listed as a main beneficiary, the family ensured she was privately supported. There were no dramatic legal battles or public feuds. Instead, there was a conscious effort to preserve unity and dignity. RJ has since become a key guardian of his father's artistic legacy. He performs unreleased works, shares stories from his childhood, and speaks about late nights in recording studios watching his father compose. According to him, music wasn't something Robin did. It was who he was. Creating was as natural as breathing. Through RJ's dedication, that creative spirit continues to resonate with new generations. The children's reflections also confirm what many long suspected, that behind the success were emotional struggles and complicated family dynamics. They describe a father who loved deeply and worked tirelessly, yet often battled internal conflicts. These revelations do not diminish his achievements. Instead, they add depth, showing that the soaring harmonies and haunting melodies were shaped by real-life experience. This gradual openness reminds us that public figures are rarely simple. Robin Gibb's life was more than awards, chart toppers, and fame. It was a story of ambition, vulnerability, love, and resilience. By sharing these truths, his family transforms mystery into understanding. His legacy now feels fuller, defined not only by timeless music, but by the honesty and compassion of those who knew him best. Robin Gibb's life was a tapestry of extraordinary talent and profound challenges. His children's revelations invite us to see the man behind the music with new understanding and compassion. If you found this story meaningful, please like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into legendary lives and untold truths.